The anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. New study finds U.S. refusal laws linked to the worst LGBTQ plus health outcomes, including 28% fewer HIV tests and higher poor health rates. It is raising concerns over growing barriers to essential care.
The Supreme Court upheld rulings that schools can respect its students' gender identity confidentiality, reinforcing protections for LGBTQ youth navigating identity without immediate parental disclosure.
A Minnesota teacher had to leave his job and he withdrew from the Teacher of the Year nomination after conservative media surfaced gay leather pageant images.
An Oregon transgender inmate wins $95,000 settlement after alleging abuse, strip searches, and harassment in prison. The lawsuit highlighted ongoing concerns over safety, housing, and treatment of trans prisoners nationwide.
Florida LGBTQ plus Dems react to a resignation that leaves Florida's bluest district unrepresented in Washington.
All this important LGBTQ plus news and more this evening on Queer News Tonight. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified the Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 12 million views.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voices in the Rainbow family. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ plus world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Wednesday, April 22nd. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots Magazine, happening on television network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but created for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. This year, our magazine celebrates 41 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and Queer News Tonight celebrates our 5th anniversary with more than 14,000 LGBTQ plus stories told. We present South Florida's major LGBTQ plus events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fete. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader communities.
In 2026, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this table and share their voices as our anchors. Together, we host this show to support the LGBTQ plus community. Let's meet this evening's anchors on Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor and my best friend, Franchesca D'Amore. She's an advocate and holistic life coach. She's the founder of TriniDaddy and is vice chair of the Broward Regional HIV Planning Council. Franchesca, champions will take the spotlight at SAVE's Equality Gala on May 2nd. Tell me what's happening out.
Hi, SAVE hosts its annual Champions of Equality Gala on May the 2nd at 6 p.m. at the Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel. It's an amazing hotel. The evening honors community leaders making waves for LGBTQ equality, including Joe Falk, Nicole Henry, and Carol Combs. Presented by SAVE, the gala blends celebration with purpose, raising vital funds for advocacy efforts. Hosted by Louis Aguirre, the event brings together changemakers committed to progress. More details and tickets are available through SAVE's official channels. For more details, you can visit save.lgbt. This is one of my favorite galas of the year. I love SAVE because they've been around forever, and I love what they represent. They've made so many shifts and changes in the political sphere in South Florida. They're just amazing. And you get to wear a fancy gown. And I'll go with Vaughn. So we'll be peacocking around. So it'll be really a great evening. And the people that are being honored are just extraordinary people in South Florida. So it's always wonderful to see people getting their flowers and being recognized for all the great work that they do. So yeah, show up, get your tickets.
And the host is Louis Aguirre, whom I just love. We worked together for like 15 years. I was his producer at Deco. We used to spend a week every year at the Idol Finals, back when American Idol was cool, and so were we. And we would be in LA together for a week, and he's just great. He's a consummate professional. I haven't seen him since I left 7 because he doesn't come north to Broward. I don't go south to Miami. But Louis, I love you and I miss you. And you'd give him a big hug for me.
I will. Why don't you come and get a ticket and show up?
Yeah, exactly.
Make me do your
Did you miss the part where I said
really?
I don't go south? I feel put out if I have to go south of 595.
You can do it. I've seen you in the South before. I have seen you in the
People
South
have seen you in the South.
There are a lot of hot men there, though. That's what brought you over there. That's awesome.
Well, Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Save Equality Gala on May 2nd. Let's welcome anchor TriniDaddy. He is a violinist and pianist with the Miami City Ballet and is the program director for the Seminole Theater Players in Homestead. TriniDaddy Canciones Amor concert will be held at Pinecrest Gardens on April 26th. Tell me what's happening now.
Experience an unforgettable evening of music at Canciones y Amor on Sunday, April 26th at 6 p.m. at Pinecrest Gardens. Presented by Orchestra Miami, this special concert honors the masters of Cuban song, including Ernesto Lecuona and Sanchez de Fuentes. Renowned soprano Elise Gutierrez joins the string ensemble led by artistic director Elaine Rinaldi. Performed 1.5 hours without intermission, the evening promises elegance, romance, and timeless classics. Open to music lovers across South Florida, tickets and details are available at orchestramiami.org. I will be performing in it. This is our actual makeup concert because we were supposed to do this in February when we had that huge freeze and it was like 32 degrees. And, you know, people in Miami, like, they won't go outside for that, that temperature. So we've rescheduled it with Elise Gutierrez, who is a local hometown girl who made it kind of big in the opera world. And she used to do many roles in Florida Grand Opera down here. So we're really proud of her. It's at the Pinecrest Gardens. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it is a beautiful space. It used to be the old parrot jungle before they moved to Jungle Island. So it's just filled with just lush, beautiful foliage and animals and birds. And they have this dome that's like kind of like the Epcot dome. That's covered. Most of the glass or the openings of the dome are covered with glass panels, so you can go in there even if it rains. And it's probably the last week or two of good weather in the evening in South Florida. So you all should come out and just see a great concert with an orchestra and a wonderful soloist in this Pinecrest Gardens beautiful setting. It's quite
I've
romantic.
actually been to that venue before. Last year, May, in the evening. It was cooler weather. It was for a Broadway series, and I really fell in love with the venue.
Yes.
So pairing the two together, it's going to be a spectacular evening.
And generally, you'll hear the peacocks chiming in on whatever we're doing, and it's just so funny, that they respond to the music, and everybody kind of, whatever mammal you are, enjoy.
I'm like a peacock yearning on my haunches.
There's a lot of peacock talk tonight.
Yeah.
I know, right? Watch your tail feathers. Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the Canciones y Amore concert on April 26th. Let's welcome anchor John Hayden, a journalist for 31 years. He now focuses on hyper-local reporting, covering LGBTQ plus issues, Wilton Manors, Lauderdale by the Sea, Fort Lauderdale, and Oakland Park. Is there any more? You can see all his reports at Greater Wilton Manors on YouTube and Facebook, as well as in New Pelican, Outclick, Out South Florida, and once again, Queer News Tonight. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much, Vaughn. I really appreciate it. So much is happening right now. I've barely slept the last couple of days. There's been some breaking news, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. There's possibly a break in a 6-year-old cold case in the murder of a black trans woman in Pompano Beach. So I'm following that story. And a happy story, we've got Arbor Day coming up on Friday, and Lauderdale by the Sea is going to have a great event on Friday morning. They're going to plant a tree in honor of a longtime and beloved person who worked for the city who tragically passed away last year. And it's going to be very special. It's going to be fun. They're going to do an orchid walk. And it's just a really great way to start your weekend. So I'll be heading up to Lauderdale by the Sea for that. You can read more about that online at New Pelican and at Greater Wilton Manors on Facebook.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, my queer from another steer, Vaughn Biggs. Vaughn is a force to be reckoned with in the LGBTQ plus and HIV justice, using his skills as a national speaker, writer, and passionate HIV empowerment advocate. He pushes back against stigma and complacency with unapologetic truth. Vaughn is the Community Engagement Coordinator for Holy Cross Health, Executive Committee member for the National HIV Aging Advocacy Network, and a founding board member of TransEd. Vaughn, you have been invited as a panelist for a critical conversation, Building Healthier Communities. Tell me what's happening out.
That's right, Franchesca. I will be participating in an important community conversation called Building Healthier Communities, Interdisciplinary Action on Social Determinants of Health. This event takes place on Wednesday, April 29th at 6 p.m. at the Florida Atlantic University's Fort Lauderdale campus. This conversation brings together leaders in healthcare, education, finance, and community engagement. I will be joining an incredible panel that includes leaders from Florida Atlantic University, Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center, Self-Help Credit Union, and Nova Southeastern University. At Holy Cross Health, we believe healthcare does not stop at the clinic door. We hope to see you there, and we look forward to being part of a conversation that is shaping the future of community health. For more details, visit business.fau.edu. You know, it was great to be called to be a panelist. I love talking about social determinants of health and healthcare and what we can do to continue to build stronger health care systems in our communities. And so it's a great honor to be asked to be part of that when it's dealing with some very strong community leaders that are going to be there at this event. So I'm looking forward to it.
I love that you're part of this, and I'm going to be there. I look forward to it because you are so engaged in the community. You're like the pulse of the community. So you're in it. You really know what's happening. So you bring some really vital insight to the entire panel. I'm excited to hear everybody's perspective.
Yes. Yeah. I'm Vaughn Biggs, and let's queer up health. LGBTQ plus adults less likely to get HIV tests in states with refusal laws. A growing number of U.S. states are enacting laws that allow healthcare providers to refuse treatment based on personal or religious beliefs. New research shows measurable health impacts of those laws on LGBTQ plus communities. As of April 2026, 11 states have passed conscientious objection laws that specifically affect queer patients. The conversation analyzed data from over 109,000 adults collected by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention between 2016 and 2018. It found that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer adults living in states with refusal laws were 28% less likely to report receiving a first-time HIV test compared to peers in states without conscientious objection laws. No similar decline was observed among heterosexual adults. The study also found that LGBTQ plus adults in those states were 71% more likely to report being in fair or poor health after the laws were enacted. Researchers identified these disparities by comparing changes in health outcomes before and after the laws took effect across multiple states, isolating the impact of the politicals from pre-existing differences. The findings come as additional policy changes affect LGBTQ plus healthcare access nationwide, including reduced funding for HIV programs, limits on gender-affirming care, and legal exemptions allowing employers to deny insurance coverage for preventative medications like PrEP, HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis, or PrEP, can lower the risk of contracting HIV from sex by 99%. However, patients need to receive an HIV test before PrEP can be prescribed. If providers refuse to engage with queer patients on their sexual health, people who could benefit most from PrEP may never receive it. Oh, take a breath, right? it's very interesting because I look at this, and when I look at the data, when you look at HIV and transmission rates, it's actually our heterosexual communities that are increasing in acquiring HIV, and it's our LGBTQ individuals that are decreasing in transmission rates. So while they're coming after and they're saying they can do this, well, we all agree it's wrong. This is where I look up at you and go, find another doctor. It's time to find another healthcare provider. If they're not able to have your healthcare back in your case, it's time to find someone who can. And it doesn't mean every doctor is going to do that. There are other ways to get PrEP. There's clearly other ways you can do it online. There's a lot of things you can do through telemedicine. So I think there's definitely opportunities for that out there in the community.
Well, this is just putting numbers to legal fag bashing.
Right.
That's what this does. Any doctor who refuses care because they don't like the queers or they have religious exemptions should absolutely have their medical license revoked. Full stop. You should not be prescribing medicine. You should not be treating patients. You are a terrible person. I mean, I'm sure it goes back before this, but in my mind, I remember after Obamacare passed and Hobby Lobby, those self-righteous little, I'm not going to say the C word, but your C words. But no, they started this. It's probably started with abortion. Oh, your company doesn't have to provide abortion coverage payments. Then Hobby Lobby comes in and makes it even worse. Contraception, PrEP, things like this. So these little companies that try and put themselves out as the face of Americana are really the rot of Americana.
I question the conclusion of the findings, right? I have yet to hear of a case where a doctor says, you have HIV, I don't want to treat you because you're gay or something like that. I think it's more that if you are somebody who is maybe on the down low, or you are just scared that you're going to be found out for being gay, or that you may have HIV or something like that, when your state enacts those laws, you realize, wow, I'm in an environment where people are really going to stigmatize me. Right. And I can go back to my own story, the first time I ordered an HIV test, which I didn't think that there was anything, I hadn't engaged in risky behavior to where I thought I would get it. However, I definitely did not want to go through my healthcare provider, because just in the chance that I did get it, I didn't want this to be on my record at the moment until I figured out what I would do with that information, because it's really scary to know who has control of knowing whether you are gay or whether you have some kind of disease, you know? One for insurance is to be able to deny you potentially. Now it's a little different with Obamacare, but before, at that time, they could deny you for anything, And who finds out about this information? Is it just your doctor? Is it the people who are working at the desk that can see? And if you live in a small town, like I did, everybody knows everybody. And so the moment that these tests go through, they're like, oh, so-and-so is getting this test. Oh, I never thought that they might be gay. Oh, it's HIV, So there's a lot of stigmatization that happens, and why people choose not to go to their doctor or to have these tests done, with their, in the whole healthcare system because of privacy, when you think people are out there to get you.
I worry because this adds one more obstacle, one more barrier to care, right? And I think there have been studies done that people who are not, or rejected, or not given care are less likely to then go and follow up with care or to look for care. And we're talking about HIV, you know, so this increases transmission rates. So it's just a really terrible obstacle to care.
Part of the amazing thing too is people can get an HIV kit mailed to them. So it's like you can do it in the comfort of your own home with an oral test. So there's always other ways around this, and I just want to empower people that they hear this and they're in one of those states that there's other ways to get this done without having
sign up for Grindr. It's right there on the page. Like you can order a test at home. Nobody knows what the outcome is except you.
And that way you know what.
You on Grindr?
Yes, I am.
I'm Franchesca D'Amore, and let's queer up trans rights. Supreme Court declines review of school's handling of student gender identity request. The justices rejected an appeal from Massachusetts parents who argued that their child's middle school secretly facilitated a social gender transition without their consent. This decision to not hear the case leaves in place lower court rulings that sided with the school district. The case centers on a 2021 incident at Baird Middle School in Ludlow, where a student, identified in court filings as BF, told school staff they identified as genderqueer and requested a new name and pronouns. According to court records, the student asked staff to continue using their legal name and assigned pronouns when communicating with their parents, as they had not yet shared the information at home. A school counselor instructed staff to follow the student's wishes. However, the parents sued, claiming the school violated their rights under the Constitution's Due Process Clause, which courts have interpreted to include parental authority over a child's upbringing. A federal judge dismissed the case, and the First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld that decision, ruling the school's actions did not infringe on parental rights. The appeals court said public schools are not required to tailor educational environments to parental preferences, and that's the school's approach, and the school's approach fell within its discretion. This is a very interesting story and a very interesting topic for me, especially in light of the way laws have been changing now, with parental rights acts, kind of packaged to be more for the student, but not really. From a trans person's perspective, you don't know what that child is going through at home. So what if they're in an unsafe environment, So I wish there was a way to have a meeting of the minds where there could be checks and balances, where parents would be included at a certain part of the checks and balances. Because I do believe that parents should be involved with what their child's going through. But there's a safety issue.
There is a safety issue. And, I think we did a story last week here about a state that passed a law. It was one of those backward-ass redneck states like Oklahoma or Texas or something like that, where parents must be notified within 72 hours of a school or teachers finding out that a child is trans or identifying as trans. So I think what this says is that schools, that the court will say states don't have to inform parents, but we're absolutely okay if they do want to inform parents. It is a dichotomy. The fact that our healthcare, the fact that our rights come and go with every election, that our rights come and go with every time we cross a state line is so effed up. So yes, I see what you're saying, and I agree with your point, and certainly you have the best perspective to talk about this. But from a principled standpoint, our kids are so screwed up. This is the government stepping onto the playground and bullying gay kids, trans kids, lesbians, all that. It's disgusting.
Well, I think it was the school counselor that made the decision. So the school counselor, I'm assuming, might have spoken with the student and determined that it is not necessary to contact the parent. So there might have been that conversation already that took place, which is, maybe why the counselor decided to go that route. I've been a teacher for 25 years, and my position on it is it's not my business. So if I've had many students that that ask to be called by a name that is not their name. And I know that the kid is going through some kind of thing, because it's not like Jenny for Jennifer. Okay. It's like, Ghost, or it is some other kind of non-binary-ish name that they feel comfortable. So if a student asks me, hey, would you mind calling me, Ghost in class or something? I'm fine with doing that. It is not my place as a teacher to ask them, are you transgendered? Are you this? Or to ask them questions, because one, they may not want their teacher asking them questions about their sexuality, right? So it's not for me to interrogate a student about that, nor report it, because I can't report something that I don't know. It's only if I see that there is some kind of behavior that's kind of destructive or that is disrupting the class. Do I go there? So if any counselor or any official comes to me and says, "Why did you do this?" I don't know if the kid is gay. I don't know if the kid is. It's not my place to know. And I think if they do cross that line to confide in you and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," I would refer them to the school counselor. And then the counselor makes these decisions. It's not really for the teacher, right? In my opinion. I'm TriniDaddy, and let's queer up gay culture. Teacher of the Year finalist withdraws after right-wing outlet publishes past leather pageant photos. A Minnesota 6th grade teacher and theater educator has withdrawn from the state's Teacher of the Year competition and is no longer employed with his school district after a right-wing outlet, Alpha News Minnesota, circulated images from his participation in a gay leather pageant, Mr. Minneapolis Eagle, in 2019. Thomas Rosengren, who worked in the Atwater Cosmos Grove City Public School District, was one of 11 finalists for Minnesota's Teacher of the Year award. The images show Rosengren participating in an erotically charged performance, including scenes where he appears in a cowboy hat, shirt, and jeans holding a sign and later wearing a leather harness and jockstrap while interacting with other performers. While suggestive, the images did not depict explicit sexual activity or nudity prohibited under Minnesota law. Shortly after the image came out, Rosengren withdrew from the 2026 Teacher of the Year competition. Superintendent Kip Link confirmed he is no longer employed with the district. Rosengren began working with the district in 2015 as a theater director and became a full-time 6th grade teacher in 2021. During his tenure, he expanded the school's theater program from 12 to more than 50 students. I'm always torn on stories like this. I do think he was in the wrong, and I'll explain why in a moment. But before I get there, I do think that people have their own personal liberty outside of their job to do, what they want to do. However, when it comes to children and a teacher-student relationship, I believe that a student should never see a teacher in a sexual way. And this was really challenged when the whole revenge porn laws were coming out, because what could happen is that you have a partner who decides to leak suggestive images, sexual images, or pornography of you to an area where he knows it's going to leak out to where students are. And then when you see your teacher in a porn, you really can't have them as a teacher anymore. It crosses a boundary, and that's no fault of the teacher. And so they figured out ways, well, maybe we just have to redistrict them, or they have to go to another school or something like that. In this case, he started in 2015. All right, this competition happened in 2019, and then he was a full-time teacher, I think, in 2022. And according to the story that I read, it appeared that those images were taken off of his Facebook. So he still might have had them on his Facebook, even though it maybe it had access to kids, maybe it didn't. I'm not sure. But regardless, when you are a teacher, you have to sign something that says you are not going to be publicly engaging in certain types of behavior. So while he was still working with students, he was in this competition where he knew he was going to be photographed, videoed, or things like that would be taken. So he knew that there was a risk. I can tell you, being on this show is a risk for me, talking about things that are sexual or whatever. I am no longer a teacher in the school system, but I'm a teacher in other ways and in other programs. So I already said to myself, if I ever get fired from those positions because I'm here speaking my mind about things, I'm okay with that, and I'm taking that risk. But he knew what kind of situation he was in, and that he wasn't supposed to do things like that, and knew what that risk was, and he did it anyways. And if it's true that it was on his Facebook and he didn't private it so that this other organization could take screenshots or whatever, or a friend of his might have, well, maybe not really a friend, but somebody who's on his Facebook could have sent it there, that's his fault.
Well, I disagree with you.
Okay.
And I think we can have a legitimate disagreement about this in perspective, but I will say Facebook, Instagram, Meta is kind of prudish. And so the fact that these pictures were on there means they weren't pornographic, they weren't lewd or showing anything that shouldn't have been. But we can disagree with that. I want to come, there are ways I can come at this story about personal time, which you mentioned. The fact that Leathermen are some of the kindest people. Our local IML contestants, International Mr. Leather contestants, are raising so much money and doing so much good for our community at this very moment. But I'd rather sit here and talk about something that's truly in my wheelhouse, and that's journalism. And I take a very broad view of people who want to call themselves journalists because there's a lot of overlap in that Venn diagram of journalism and free speech, right? But this person is not this guy from Alpha Male, Minnesota reporting, whatever it is. He is at best small J journalism. This is fag bashing. This is hurting people. just for the sake of hurting people. And on that, I would like to take a moment to mention the passing of longtime Milwaukee journalist Daniel Bice. This person was so caught up in themselves. They would do stories simply to shred people that he didn't like, to drag people, to make himself feel important. And he was at a major paper. I believe he was at the Milwaukee Sentinel, which is a major outlet in Wisconsin. So I just want us to remember that just because you can put it out there doesn't make it real journalism, doesn't make it worth your time, the paper it's printed on, the Wi-Fi that is streaming it. And as far as Daniel Bice goes, I'm glad you're dead. You were a disgrace to our profession, and I'm glad you are no longer taking up column inches.
Well, getting back to the story, though, you said that you had a disagreement with me about that.
Yeah.
So what are you disagreeing about? That I'm just curious.
Well, you're talking about
if the students are able to see you in a jockstrap, is that okay?
Yeah.
For a student to see a teacher in a jockstrap?
What is the difference between, aside from perhaps, I'm going to assume it's frontal jockstrap and not ass in the back, right? What's the difference between that and what a lot of people wear at the beach? It's essentially the same amount of clothing.
I think the context is the sexual nature of it, because I think that if there was a picture of like somebody in a Speedo with their family at a beach, that's a different context than being in a leather competition with, feeding pigs and whatever the signs are and all that stuff. To me, nudity and sexuality are not necessarily the same thing.
No, absolutely.
And I think that in the sexual context, that's where a student shouldn't be seeing a teacher.
Well, and like I said, that's just a disagreement, an honest disagreement that we have. I'm just saying.
You think that's okay?
I do.
Interesting to me.
If Facebook, Meta, Instagram are allowing it, not taking it down, not flagging it, not making you private your account. I
don't think that's not the.
They are the social arbiters these days of what gets on, what's taken down.
Not when it comes
and
to
what
children.
Can go viral.
Let me just give you an example.
Sure.
If you're a teacher, you can't even have like pictures of you doing a keg stand, okay, like drinking and public intoxication or things that would not get flagged on social media as being bad, but you can't depict yourself that way as part of your contract as a teacher. So if you don't want to do that, you can certainly not sign on to do that job. But just letting you know that these are things that you sign on to say that you're not going to do before you even take the position. I don't know what his contract is, but
I'm going to interject here because I'm on your side on this, because the way I see it is, as even a teacher and even anybody in that matter, you are a leader in respect in the community as a teacher or anything. And when you sign up for something at the Minnesota Eagle, you're competing for a title. Mm-hmm. It's not just there for the fun of it. You're competing for a title, which means you will go to the international stage.
National press.
And that is press everywhere. That will be seen. And you have to take the onus of all this is out there now. I'm doing this as a Leatherman. All those type of things you have to take responsibility for. And when it does come, I feel, in my opinion, when it does come to children, yes, we have to take special precautions to make sure that we're not saying something that the organization we work for supports.
See, I hate I hate the argument that I'm about to make. I hate what I'm about to say. It's the slippery slope, because there are people, and we talk about them all the time, that are going to say, well, you put up a rainbow, you wear a shirt that says proud, but
that's not sexual in nature.
No, but that's what I'm talking about. The slippery slope is that what was once defined as just absolutely terrible and horrible, and you're going to infect our children, is now like, what the hell were you thinking? So to kink shame the leather community because somebody wants to have a career where they
nobody's kink shaming them though.
But that's what we are. We're saying it's okay. Okay, you can be out and wear your wedding ring and have a picture of your husband, but you can't have a picture that is absolutely acceptable. You could put on.
What we're saying is that if you are 13 years old and you're a hormonal whatever, and you are seeing your teacher in some kind of sexual, in a sling or whatever, it ruins the relationship. There is a clear distinction between a teacher and a student, and that those lines shouldn't be crossed. Now, if somebody sees you like that and they're not your student, that's a different situation. There's plenty of Nicki Minaj posters up, where you're going to rock concerts, and that's what their brand is. But that Nicki Minaj is not their teacher. It's not teaching them, there's in my opinion, and pretty much the ethos of all teaching is that there's a sacred relationship between teacher and student. You can't date your students. You can't, in college, even though they're both of age, you can't date your students because there's a relationship, a power dynamic. There's things there that is different than just two random people on the street.
I think we should also remember that all careers, all jobs, all professions have boundaries. So I think it's important to honor those boundaries, but I see where you're coming from, because these kids are exposed to S&M scenes in a music video. I mean, that's basically the same thing, right? People in thongs, if you see a lot of the provocative things that are everywhere. But as a teacher, you do have that, I think it's your job to respect that boundary. So I understand both points of view. Like, how far does it go towards bashing our community? If it was somebody else doing something similar, would they be equally as bashed as an LGBTQ person? So, yeah. I'm Franchesca D'Amore, and let's queer up trans rights. Oregon officials to pay $295,000 to a trans woman who alleged abuse while housed in a men's prison. Zero Lola Zombie, 41, filed the lawsuit in 2021, citing harassment, forced searches, and alleged sexual assault during her time at Two Rivers Correctional Institute in Eastern Oregon. She later transferred to Coffee Creek Correctional Facility, a women's prison. Zombie, who is serving a sentence through 2049 after a manslaughter and assault conviction, transitioned while incarcerated around 2020. According to court filings, she experienced, quote, ongoing harassment and verbal, mental, and psychological abuse by both prisoners and staff as a result of her sex, gender, and gender identity, end quote. In 2023, U.S. District Judge Ann Aiken ruled Zombie was likely repeatedly subjected to abuse, including sexual assault, and ordered protective measures. These included halting cavity searches and preventing exposure to other inmates and staff. Court filings also allege guards paraded her in undergarments, conducted strip searches, and forced her to provide urine samples in front of staff. Zombie said she was terrorized by a cellmate, but told to get over it by a guard. The Oregon Department of Corrections settled the case this week, awarding $95,000 to Zombie with $200,000 allocated to attorneys. This case comes as courts and policymakers continue grappling with how transgender inmates are housed amid shifting federal policies on gender identity and prison care. For me, this is a really scary story to even have to read and report. I can't imagine being placed in a men's prison. Of course you're going to be harassed. Of course you're going to be raped. Of course you're going to be subject to all of that. And with all of the laws that are changing at the federal level and at some state levels, it's a scary time for trans inmates, I'm glad that she did win. It sets sort of a precedence, which is a good thing. But we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah. I just look at how many times have we seen stories about inmates of prisons, regardless of transgender or not, but because of the way the guards acted, the way, it's like they're the ones that's supposed to keep the peace, but it seems like they're the ones that are creating the nightmares.
Yeah. Well, alluding to what you said, prison is not really known for upholding anybody's dignity, gay, straight, cis, trans, whatever. But I'm glad that a line is being drawn in this. I think it's an important distinction to note that she is in a state prison, because at a federal prison, she'd probably be in a men's prison, and everybody would be saying, who cares? So I'm glad to see that a line has been drawn. And the fact is, it's hard to feel sorry for someone who's a convicted violent criminal who has killed someone. But I think isn't that what we're called to do? Is to look at everybody, no matter what they did, with a certain amount of compassion, even if they are, let's be honest, probably a bad person in general. So I'm glad to see that this person is going to get a level of justice because she's in the justice system.
Right.
So my viewpoint on this is that, as you all were saying, everybody's rights when you're a prisoner seem to get trampled on in our American prison system. Yeah. And there are other prison systems that, I'm not just saying just America, but I feel like, in the first world, we incarcerate so many people and our inmates come out worse than they were when they went in. So they're particularly in men's prisons. It's not rehabilitative. It is just, it's like an animal house. And if you've seen any documentaries on this, it's like this is inhumane the way that people are treated. So I'm sure there are tons of men who are not transgendered who are raped and, all of this goes on. So I feel like in her case that she probably won her case not necessarily because of the trans issue, but because she could prove that she was actually sexually assaulted and mistreated in some way, which probably she made the case more than anybody else. Like maybe other inmates are not really suing. They just accept that this is how it is when you're locked up in the big house, I also have kind of an issue with, so I think that it said that she transitioned while she was in prison, right? So she went in male. I don't know what you can have done while you're in prison to make you more physically female. I mean, maybe they would have given her hormones to grow breasts,
Yeah.
So then when she's saying that they paraded me around and did cavity surgery just like everybody else. Like, so you weren't being treated differently than other people. You were just feeling more sensitive about it now because maybe you started growing breasts or something like that. So that to me is not really an issue. However, when it comes to trans people being in jail or in prison, I do think that there is a level of common sense, I would say, that, and maybe it goes with passability. I think if there's a reasonable expectation that the inmates are going to treat you or see you as a woman, then you should go to a female prison. I think if you look just like a male and you hadn't transitioned or anything like that, then you would go to a male prison. So I think there's a little bit of a gray area. I know you know
I
this
think
more,
it's
but I do
interesting.
think that there's a nobody wants to talk about passability, but I think passability is a big part of the conversation and when it comes to public spaces or like
I agree.
bathrooms or things like
and
that.
there are different spectrums of trans people and transitioning. So before I physically transitioned, I considered myself trans, even though I didn't present the way I present now. So it's an internal thing. So psychologically, it's going to affect that person very different from somebody who doesn't see themselves as the opposite gender that they were born at birth. So it's a bit jarring, and I do agree, everybody gets treated that way. But if you are a minority and it's known, you're going to get bullied. And I know this from the real world we live in, so it's no different there than it is out here in the real world. So I get it.
Yeah, I think that the prison guards or the prison system has a duty to keep every single person protected from
Correct.
that. Well,
Correct. Agreed.
Hey everyone, I'm John Hayden. Let's queer up politics. Sheila Sherlifus McCormick was just minutes away from becoming just the 7th member ever to be expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives when she resigned her seat yesterday. A bipartisan vote to expel was imminent after the House Ethics Committee found her guilty of 25 counts of funneling money of disaster relief, federal disaster relief, into her campaign. Now, she calls the process unfair and a witch hunt and waited until literally the last possible moment to give up. Now, I've reached out to local LGBTQ plus Democratic leaders for their reaction. Kristen Browdy, president of the Florida LGBTQ plus Democratic Caucus, told me, quote, "We are always disappointed when a politician engages in misconduct no matter the party." Dolphin Democrats president Alfredo Olvera said the group, quote, "acknowledges the resignation of Congresswoman, now ex-Congresswoman, Sheila Sherlifus McCormick and recognized this as a significant moment for our community and for South Florida," end quote. Now the question becomes, who's going to replace her and when? Olvera said he doesn't do endorsements. The Dolphin Democrats don't do endorsements, and they leave that up to Browdy's organization. And she wasn't addressing the topic. Elijah Manley, who has appeared on this show many times, was already challenging Sheriff Phyllis McCormick in the primary and says he does plan to run in the special. After the resignation, he made his case to represent the district, saying in part, "I was raised in Sistrunk by a single mother, many days in homelessness and poverty. I have spent years organizing alongside families in the district. Now the district deserves a special election to elect a representative who will fight for things working families actually need." Now it's Governor Ron DeSantis' move. He must call for a special election, and given the narrow partisan makeup of Congress, he's expected to delay as long as possible. And Olvera told me he wouldn't be surprised if the seat sits open until November. You know, the Florida 20 is the bluest district in Florida. Last cycle in 2024, Republicans didn't even bother to run a candidate against her. Once she won the primary, that was it. So redistricting is in the works right now here in Florida. So will they try and redraw it so maybe a Republican will have a chance? Possibly. The governor may have to call a special election whether he wants to or not, because a Republican up north in New Smyrna Beach is Corey Mills is facing a House ethics investigation, and a motion to expel has already been filed by another Republican candidate. So the way this is going to play out is going to be very interesting and very fun to watch. Well, fun if you're not under indictment, that is. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it happens. Whether Elijah Manley will be able to become the nominee and the congressman, who knows? A poll done a couple of months ago found that he was in a virtual statistical tie with Sheila for the nomination in the primary. So it's going to be very interesting for people like me who love this kind of stuff over the next couple of months.
Do you know when the court case for the redistricting of Florida is supposed to have some kind of answer?
Well, it's not a court case. The legislature is in special session,
okay,
and they will redraw the districts as they see fit or as how Donald Trump sees fit.
Right, and then that will go, I'm sure that'll be challenged. And then
Doubtful. The Supreme Court of the United States has been very consistent this year of allowing states to redraw their districts, or their congressional districts, however they want.
And so that will come out in the next few months?
Next couple of weeks.
Next couple of weeks. Because I imagine there won't even be any move until that happens for them to see if they can just get rid of the district or split up the district.
Right. The district will remain. We're not losing seats. They're just going to rearrange who's in what district. So before, when Sheila, and for decades, they've just put all the Democrats, people of color, gays, all that, they just put us all into one so that we couldn't we couldn't make any other district purple. They just put it all in blue. Now they may see an opportunity to make this purple, which is an opportunity for them.
Well, it may be an opportunity for us as well if they are splitting, I don't know if they're splitting that into two districts or part of two other districts to give more Democrats in a red district as well.
Right.
That, maybe that gives us two more, I don't know, at some point.
Oh, yeah. And what we saw in Virginia yesterday, where voters agreed to allow redistricting, it's FAFO. They FA'd and they FO'd.
Yeah.
Wow. LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the worldview. The Middle East's largest LGBTQ festival is here. This year, Israel will host the Middle East's largest queer festival, Pride Land at the Dead Sea, from June 1st to June 4th. Organizers plan to transform the Judean desert into a 24/7 Pride City featuring 15 hotels, beach complexes, non-stop parties, and a central performance arena. The event will also include cultural spaces and art installations, relaxation zones, and family-friendly activities aiming to attract multi-generational audience. The launch comes as Israel faces tourism challenges due to security and safety concerns amidst the current geopolitical environment. Ticket sales are expected to open soon. I'm kind of curious to see how this is going. I had to do my research, and I was like, okay, Israel's kind of like in a safer zone for us LGBTQ, maybe, I'm thinking. But yes, other than that, I'm like, I can't imagine other people flocking to this event, but I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know this is 1 minute news. No, this is like we were talking. This is going to be a 1 hour news report right here. The launch comes as Israel faces tourism challenges due to security and safety concerns. Are you kidding me? That is the understatement of the year. Are you kidding me? You're going to be what? Floating in the Dead Sea as missiles fly over? Because yes, I was a little thrown off by your first comment that Israel is a safer place. Yes, for queers,
right,
but not in general.
Right.
They tried to have, they haven't had Tel Aviv Pride since the revolt in the West, in Gaza, right? So it's been several years. They tried to bring it back last year. Our own Al Ferguson went there, and days before the event, while he was there, the war broke out. Tel Aviv was being bombed. He and his partner Richard were like running from their hotel rooms down to bomb shelters daily. And now they're going to try and do this in the middle of a war that is arguably 10 times worse, 10 times more dangerous. Are you kidding me?
I actually read it wrong. I thought it was supposed to be the Middle East Pride Festival.
Oh.
But now when I looked at it again, I was like, wait a second. No, that we're saying that it's the largest, if it happens, the largest Pride Festival that would have been in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So obviously it's really just for Israel, and it's not for, any of the surrounding countries because they're kind of at war with one another. And I didn't realize that they had, canceled the Tel Aviv Pride. So it's been a few years since they've had Tel Aviv Pride?
Yeah, I think it missed 2 years, and then they were going to try and have it last year, and Al was there. And Al,
it's going to be in the Judean desert. Is that like a little area that's, I don't know much about Israel.
It's on the Dead Sea.
Okay.
Which is a very tourist, very beautiful place, and beautiful in times when, there's not bombs flying overhead. And Al, by the way, just texted me while we were doing the show. He says he was invited to go to this.
Oh.
I have a feeling he's probably going to stay home. And Al, if you're watching this, and I know you are, stay home.
I just think about my Sunday school time, when growing up. And when you think of like the Judean desert,
Right.
I'm thinking like, maybe Moses or something like that. But
Yeah.
like in my little storybook Bible, I'm just thinking like, hey, rainbows and flags like going on. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't want to say that it's a bad thing. Like, I'm definitely skeptical of like maybe the reasons for it, but there is quite an opposition to Netanyahu and his regime in Israel. So I don't know exactly who started it or whose idea it was, but I mean, it potentially could be a good thing. Anytime we have visibility, that's a wonderful thing. Maybe it's something from the state media to show how Israel is different from the Arab world. Like, hey, we have maybe we're going to throw the biggest gay pride event just to get more American support for that. So I'm just suspicious about everything that's going on, but maybe if that part is not in the equation, maybe it is a good thing.
Yeah.
The gays, I'm sure in Israel also at times get persecuted, for religious reasons or whatnot. So, I'm on the fence about it, but I hope everything works out well.
I wonder who's going to be bold enough to fly into headline for entertainment for that.
Oof.
That would be interesting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I don't see RuPaul there.
No. LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up trans rights. A trans woman of zero threat was allegedly tracked for years by Madison Square Garden security. The woman, identified as Nina Richards, was reportedly monitored over 2 years. The report claims security teams under Madison Square Garden CEO James Dolan tracked her movements during events, including logging her activities down to the second during a 2022 game. A lawsuit by former MSG Security Vice President Donald Ingrasalino alleges Richards was targeted because of her gender identity. It claims Security Chief John Effersole created a dossier and instructed staff to monitor her despite no threat. MSG has denied the allegations, calling the report misleading and saying it is reviewing legal options. Well, after seeing his photo up on the screen, I mean, it's a little sus, I would say. Perhaps he's a transamorous man, who's just obsessed with this trans woman. I mean, it happens every day, right? So here's the means of tracking her.
Right.
I will tell you what he is.
Okay.
James Dolan is unhinged. This man is ridiculous. He has taken a great franchise like the New York Knicks and driven it into the ground. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. James Dolan sits and plays his little guitar in a band that people only care about because they're trying to curry favor with the owner of the New York Knicks. Charles Oakley was one of the greatest New York Knicks of all time. Back in the 1990s, the Knicks and the Pacers went at it head to head. You remember, Vaughn. Mm-hmm. And Charles Oakley was kicked out, banned from Madison Square Garden, and arrested on the orders of James Dolan. So you alienate your fans by attacking one of the few heroes that still manages to hang out and go to your second-rate team in a first-rate arena. James Dolan, we are dragging you, and you deserve to get dragged.
Okay, so I'm going to say that there's not enough information in this story for me to have any kind of real opinion, because it seems very unlikely to me that you would go through all this trouble just because somebody was trans, because I'm sure there's plenty of trans people that go to this event, to games, right? So why this particular person? Why was he so concerned about this person's connections or getting too close to the players of the team? So it makes me think that there might have been an incident in which flagged this person, and that's why it was being monitored more. And it doesn't say how many people were also in this dossier of, like, maybe there's 30, 40, maybe there's 60 people that they're tracking because they had some kind of violation there. It just seems weird to me that somebody would do that just because they don't like a trans person or a gay person or something like that. To go to that kind of trouble, I feel like there is some other little part of the story that we're missing that might make a difference in why this person might be tracked. That's my opinion.
Okay, that makes sense. I still think he's transamorous.
I agree.
So you
I
think
agree.
that he actually might like the person, like have a fixation with the person?
So most men who are transamorous, who haven't dealt with it, they go out to villainize the trans person or go out of their way to hurt that person.
Because they won't go on a date with them or something?
No, because they can't be open and out about what they're attracted to. So we would have to see her and all the other, and understand all of the background of the story.
Okay.
Yeah. That kind of thing has happened to me, so I speak from experience.
Okay.
So,
LGBTQ 1 Minute News, Let's Queer Up Entertainment. Madonna's vintage outfit goes missing after Coachella cameo. Reward will be offered. Madonna is asking for help after pieces of her vintage stage costume went missing following a surprise appearance at Coachella over the weekend. The singer joined Sabrina Carpenter on stage wearing archival items from her personal collection, including a purple corset and matching accessories. In an Instagram post on April 20th, Madonna said the missing pieces are, quote, part of my history, and noted additional archival items from the same era had also disappeared. She's offering a reward for their return. The moment comes as Madonna builds anticipation for Confessions 2, the sequel to her 2005 album set for release July 3rd. My opinion is, like, who cares? Like, you know, people's stuff goes missing all the time in these big festivals, and I get that. I mean, maybe it's a bigger story. She's trying to make it a bigger story by offering a reward or something, like she cares that much about it. I don't know. But the other part of me was saying, like, maybe there is, like, a little Madonna thief who's, like, amassing little knickknacks, kind of like the Da Vinci Code, that in, like, 30 years, there's going to be some, like, little Ark of the Covenant with the Merovingian kings of Madonna.
Right.
They're like, how did you get that? 30 years ago, they took it from Coachella, you know, so.
Da Vinci Madonna. Same
Hey.
exact thing. I will pay 5 to 9 against that Madonna's ever going to get these items back. Because I can guarantee you a super fan has them and a super fan ain't giving them back. I personally...
Unless the reward's bigger than eBay.
I personally... Oh, no. They want to keep it. They're going to... It's going to be in the closet that they only bring out to show people they trust. I personally have Lady Gaga's champagne glass from when she was at SCORE. It's got her lipstick on it and everything. And I would never give that back. So, yeah, super fans are super fans and they're going to keep...
So if she ever commits a crime and you need DNA, call John Hayden.
Oh, absolutely. You probably do. Do you remember the movie, The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert?
Yes.
And remember Guy Pearce's character had Madonna poo, or not Madonna poo, Abba poo in the thing. I mean, that's a super fan. And that's the equivalent of what this person who stole this.
Sure, and that's really a thing. Years ago, I lived in Boston. I was doing hair and makeup, and I was hired to do hair and makeup for a movie, and it was like a B movie. Maureen McCormick, Marsha, okay?
Yeah.
Well, I have her barrette. Let's just leave it at that.
We are at
It's just something that makes you feel like you're connected to that individual. So
I'm slightly disappointed you didn't keep a lock of hair.
no, I'm not into that kind of witchcraft.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News, let's queer up culture. New LGBTQ dating podcast backed by Tinder debuts April 28th. A new queer-focused dating podcast is Started with a Kiss, launches April 28th. It is a spinoff from I Kissed a Girl and I Kissed a Boy. The weekly show is hosted by Gareth Valentino and Amy Spalding, featuring conversations about queer dating experiences, relationships, and personal stories. The show will premiere with 2 episodes featuring Christine McInnes and Joshua Cavallo as guests. Future episodes will feature names like Tia Kofi, Rosie Jones, Nathan Henry, and Kat Burns. Partnering with Tinder, the podcast includes a hot date segment where guests react to dating deal breakers. The series will stream Spotify and YouTube, among other platforms. I have no comments.
Does anybody listen to podcasts
No,
about dating LGBT stuff?
I don't know.
I tried once
Tinder out of all places.
on my way to Key West when I go back and forth. It's like a 2-3 hour drive, and I just get so bored of them unless they're gonna really spice it up and give me some real good tidbits. Like, I don't know, the podcast world of dating is just kind of I don't know, an interesting, not so interesting topic. I don't know.
I'd rather do an audiobook if I'm be driving or something than that. And it's Tinder. I don't use Tinder, so
Podcasts are cheaper than Xanax, so...
I mean, it needs to be more of like one of those true crime stories. Like, it's got to be some real, they tried to kill me on this date, for me to stay.
Everybody looks very young, so I think our perspective to dating will be quite different.
well, unless you date
It is
again.
what it is, right?
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news, and we're going to queer up gay culture. Hotspots magazine takes you inside bold LGBTQ plus home trends in South Florida. Our Hotspots Happening Out LGBTQ plus lifestyle magazine, Hotspots, is back with a feature on how South Florida's LGBTQ plus homeowners are redefining home improvement through style, safety, and self-expression. From bold interiors to eco-friendly upgrades, the trends blend personality with purpose. The feature highlights how creating a safe, affirming refuge is an act of empowerment, especially in today's times. With a focus on community, comfort, and identity, these homes go beyond design. They tell a story. This feature story and many more are included in your free copy of the upcoming issue of Hotspots magazine on stands tomorrow. And I just have to say, excitement is building.
Oh, okay. I actually do like a little interior decor, a little home stuff. My entire home is based on what makes me happy from room to room. For every color is perfectly matched to my moods and what I think will be a great space to come home to. I think more people should be into that. I think people will be happier. You shouldn't walk into a home and think, gosh, I have to fix that. I have to do this. When you walk into your home, you should be like, I'm so lucky to be able to live here, you know? So that's my little gay interior design.
I love it. And as it's known, the gays just know how to do stuff. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Some
I'm
of
looking
them.
forward to it.
Some of them.
There are some that are like a dumpster fire, for sure.
Hence the need for this, right?
Yes.
So it's amazing.
As long as my hurricane windows stay intact, my roof doesn't fly away during a storm with a name, I'm pretty happy.
I feel like every Grindr date I go on, like they need to get this magazine article.
Oh my.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
versus seeing the dirty bedrooms, right? in the
So,
background.
little judgment from the trickeration, I guess.
I just am being a truth teller.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a nonprofit LGBTQ media organization, we would like to thank our viewers for supporting our mission to tell the stories of the queer community. We also thank our generous support from Jets Pizza. Jets is the LGBTQ community's most popular pizza in South Florida.
Take a look around these streets. Do you really think we woke up one day and said, yeah, the world needs more pizza? Nah, just a better one. Better, like the world's best pizza, Jet's Detroit-style pizza. Hand-pressed and baked to the thickest, crispiest crunch. You're welcome. Now visit jetspizza.com and save. Click on hot deals for special offers in your area. Jets, better because it has to be.
These are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. Our anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ family.
If our community is important to you, share this news with our friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines, where we do not shame Grindr users. We need your support. If our community is to grow and then to thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This right here is the only place in the entire world telling these types of LGBTQ plus stories. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television, Queer News Tonight, me. Hey, girl.
I'm your anchor, Vaughn Biggs, and I thank you for joining us on behalf of my fellow LGBTQ anchors here at Queer News Tonight, Franchesca D'Amore, TriniDaddy, and John Hayden. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. to our LGBTQ plus world. We wish you a good night.
Good night.
Night.